It's 4 a.m., and something impossible is streaking toward Russia. Four tiny machines, quiet, relentless, and invisible to the eyes that were supposed to stop them, are heading straight for a massive oil refinery. If you think this is a movie, think again. What unfolds next looks like a blockbuster, but it's terrifyingly real. This refinery wasn't just a place that made gas, it was a strategic lifeline. Cut it, and a whole logistical chain groans. Ukraine's move wasn't random damage, it was a surgical hit on the arteries that feed a war. And when you mess with supply lines, the map of power changes overnight. The little drones came in like a bad joke for the defenders. Too small, too fast, and too clever. On the radar screens they looked like nothing. A glitch, a flock, a blink. By the time those in the control room realized something was incoming, the event had already begun. Imagine watching a slow-motion disaster movie and knowing you can't pause it. Defenses kicked into motion, loud, metallic, and confident. Systems that were built to stop missiles woke up and roared into life. But the attackers had chosen a time and a style that turned certainty into confusion. The missiles launched, the alarms screamed, and for a few breathless minutes, everybody held their breath. Explosions bloomed in the sky, spectacular, noisy, and ultimately hollow. Interceptors detonated where the raiders had been a heartbeat earlier. The fragments fell like a glittering confession, costly, dramatic, and utterly ineffective. The defenders had paid a heavy price for a mirage. This wasn't chaos for chaos's sake. The attackers had studied how to get the most damage out of the smallest package. The result was not just flames and smoke, but a crippling hit to systems that matter. One well-placed blow can do more long-term damage than dozens of clumsy strikes. Within seconds, the refinery became an inferno. Fire raced along fuel lines, consuming years of investment and months of planning. Emergency crews fought in vain. The blaze was too intense, the damage too deliberate. The fallout was immediate. Fuel flows choked, plans derailed, and a regional network of supply started to wobble. As crews were still trying to control the first fire, new contacts appeared on screens far away. More small aircraft headed toward fresh targets. The defenders thought they'd learned the lesson from the first strike. They were about to discover that the lesson had a sequel. Not everything in this fight was brute force. Some moves were theatrical deception, designed to make defenders look one way, while the real threat slipped in another direction. It's the oldest trick in warfare. Make the enemy flinch left, then walk right out their back door. And when the defenders did flinch, the attackers punished the gap. Picture the scene: consoles flashing, officers shouting, algorithms recalculating. Plans that once felt watertight now looked as fragile as tissue paper. The human factor, stress, hesitation, the instinct to wait for certainty, is often what decides a moment like this. In war, a half-second can rewrite the scoreboard. When the smoke cleared, the numbers weren't the only victims. Supply chains, maintenance schedules, and tactical timelines all bent under pressure. A single lost facility meant months of recalibration, and the strategic headache spread far beyond the blaze. The attackers knew that economic pain compounds into military advantage. Beyond the physical wreckage was a quieter, nastier victory: fear. If tiny, cheap devices could torch a major refinery and vanish, what does that say to commanders and civilians alike? The sense of safety evaporated, and with it, a cascade of defensive decisions that would be costly to reverse. This was never about the headline alone. By forcing a major redeployment of defenses, the strike opened space elsewhere. A chess move with real soldiers as pawns. Where attention goes, opportunity appears. The attackers had bought themselves choices. Their opponents now had fewer. A few $100,000 in tiny drones turned into tens of millions in damage and weeks of strategic headaches. The math is grimly poetic. Sometimes a small investment with smart planning yields disproportionate returns. It's military finance, and it's cruelly efficient. If a handful of drones can reach deep into territory that was supposed to be safe, what does the future of air defense even look like? We just watched a new chapter in modern warfare write itself in fire and smoke. Stick around, because the next act is already being planned, and it's going to change how wars are fought.